See us in MomoCon 2023.
Two suits, two tokens in hand. I got no respect cause I'm the new man.
When asking what's the most accurate book-to-movie adaptation, I'll tell you, I don't read that crap. But thankfully in elementary, we read and watched Holes. Other than minor details like the main kid progressively losing weight in the desert or Jeffrey the emotional support giraffe plush, the movie was a near-exact adaptation. That's because the film's writer was Louis Satcher, the very author of Holes. Oh, and also Wayside. In Mexico, they call it Que Pasa, Wayside? So Holes is a kid's book about a teenager, Stanley Yelnats, framed for stealing some sweet Jordans and being sent to a prison camp. Here, everyone is digging up a hole digging 5 feet deep and 5 feet wide every day. Why? Well, it's a punishment. Don't think about it, okay?
We got the only water for 100 miles. Our own little oasis. You want to run away? Them buzzards will pick you clean by the end of the third day.
Great film, but what if I told you there was an edgier version pitched, one by Richard Kelly, writer and director of Donnie Darko? In this completely normal rewrite, Stanley gets sent to prison camp, not for stealing shoes, no. Instead, he's arrested after mercy killing his little sister who was dying of radiation poisoning after Texas was nuked. Yes, this is a real script, and I read through the whole thing. So, let me tell you about it. It's Juice and Jam time. Before you ask, only the script was made, as I don't believe anything was filmed. This was pitched in 1999, years before the Disney movie. Phoenix Pictures was the studio in charge known for horrors and thrillers like Lake Placid, Zodiac, and Shutter Island, so this is not too far off from what they normally make. They also co-produced the Disney film. I assume they retained some rights when that version was made. The writer was Richard Kelly, who at the time was an up-and-comer as he was pumping out many scripts. Holes did not get made, obviously, but other films did after that, like Donnie Darko.
28 days. 6 hours. That is when the world will end.
Hard to explain, but it's a sort of artsy sci-fi thriller of a troubled teenager. Donnie is told by a rabbit that the world will end in 28 days. Even worse, he has to go to high school. Call up Hudson Soft, cause that's a real bummer, man.
And the prom's tomorrow!
So the iconic Donnie Darko bunny only appeared for like 3 scenes, which was disappointing. I was kangaroo jacked. Anyway, this cynical teen angst can be found in his Holes pitch. It's like if he read the first few chapters of the novel and made up the rest on his own. In this version, there's no flashbacks to the Old West, no kissing Kate Barlow, no yellow-spotted lizards, no I can fix that, not even the curse of Madame Zeroni. Instead, you got the absolute roller coaster that I'll summarize.
Stanley Yelnats.
Yeah. Everyone in my family names their son Stanley because it's Yelnats backwards. It's a little...
We follow not Stanley Yelnats, but Stanley Kramer. Hope he's better at stand-up. A handsome, blue eyes, blonde hair 16-year-old wearing a blue jumpsuit. He's sentenced to Camp Green Lake for a crime they will reveal later. I revealed it earlier in this video, so I hope you paid attention. Here, Stanley meets the other campers like X-Ray, who was arrested for stealing a Slurpee machine from a 7-Eleven and tossing it off a roof. X-Ray claims he got his name because he can see through time and space. There's also Theo, who found God after he was incarcerated for trying to off himself.
Joe, my name is not Theodore. It's Armpit.
Alan, the squid, a 17-year-old who smokes and got into a high-speed police chase. Zero is also there for possibly killing someone they never say beyond hints. Yeah, Zero, the best friend, a major character from the book, is barely here.
It's toaster strudel. Really? Still warm. How'd it get there?
So in this camp, everyone just gotta be digging up them holes, but during dinner, Stanley asks, are they digging for something in specific? And everybody freezes. No one has the courage to answer him. With a magic marker, Alan the squid writes him a message that will vanish. Be careful, they are watching and listening, said the message. Later, a body of an escapee was discovered 30 miles from camp. He died from the heat, so they displayed his body in the center of camp as an example on why you shouldn't run away. Sounds cruel, but some of the counselors aren't so bad, like Pendansky, who talks about how he lost his wife after the blast. Yeah, the characters hint to something called the Blast and a war that happened recently. The next day, while digging, Stanley finds human bones as Theo brags about how he once found a baby skeleton. They eventually discover a full skeleton of a woman who worked at a big boy's diner. It turns out this skeleton belongs to Pedansky's wife. He's so hurt that he asks the campers to take the body to the incinerator room. That's something prisoners got at the camp, right? The incinerator room? They lay the bones before the oven and pray. The skeleton is torched, but they keep the skull. Stanley holds the skull as we flash back to the woman working at Big Boy's smoking a cigarette until the blast came. Stanley jolts out from that vision and places the skull on the metal shelf full of other skulls found. We flash back again to Stanley in the suburbs, celebrating his sister's birthday. Everyone's at the pool with super soakers. Stanley dives into the pool in slow-mo, but as he splashes, a white flash illuminates the earth. Emerging from the pool, a toxic mushroom cloud has formed.
Fortunately, I was employed as a pool cleaner at the time, and when I emerged from retrieving a dead possum, I found I was the only one left.
Somebody has set us up the bomb several miles southwest of Dallas, Texas. People are running and screaming, the mushroom cloud engulfs the people until Stanley wakes up from his flashback dream.
Come on, matey, wake up, buddy.
Back at the mess hall, the campers fight with each other, shouting the hard R gamer word. Oh dear. I hope Richard Kelly got his black friend to co-write this section. With the rampant racism abound, Stanley rocks out doing air guitars to Metallica's The Unforgiven.
Excellent!
Oh yeah, good old stock music. This song was only 8 years old at the time of writing the script in 1999, but it's considered an oldie in this post-apocalyptic future. As the music plays, the warden comes in demanding them to stop slacking off, but Stanley don't play that. He stands up to the warden, delivering the best damn monologue cinema never got. Digging holes is nothing but a stupid and pointless exercise, kind of like when it's the last day of school before summer break and your teacher makes you write an essay about Canada. And at the end of the day, she just takes all the essays and throws them in the garbage, because no one really gives a shit about Canada.
Damn, that's a cold-ass honky.
Shit. The warden is so stunned, likely for how epic that sounded on top of the Metallica track, his only rebuttal is asking Stanley about his sister. To which Stanley cannot say a thing. By the way, the warden is a guy in this script.
Great. Now it's officially a sausage fest.
Later that night, Counselor Pendansky takes some of the campers out for laundry duty. Wink wink. One kid rolls a joint, passes it to Pedansky, who says, screw the warden. They do laundry and head to the last stop, a crowded bar. Pedansky takes these underage boys to get drunk and get laid. He's even a swell enough guy to pay for their prostitutes? So far, this is among the few times Stanley and Zero spend any time together. Stanley Kramer enters a prostitute's room and makes out for 15 seconds until he climaxes. So they get dressed and Stanley cuddles with the lady, crying to confess his feelings since it's cheaper than therapy. The following day, the warden assembles the kids to ask who snuck out. That's not allowed. He pummels the camper until the kids confess. The warden and Mr. Sir beat his ass down while the other kids rush to help. The warden holds a rifle towards Stanley's head and a boot to his throat. Now, they gotta dig 2 holes a day.
Oh, man!
So back to digging while Stanley finds a metallic hammer-shaped object with some coding listed on it. Now, when you find something interesting in the dirt at this camp, you get the day off. Though the bunkmate X-Ray has never found anything ever, yet he's been here longer, so he claims to find the hammer in this hole at a different location. This excites the prison guards enough that several military trucks visit the camp. Here is where I'm actually enjoying the unraveling mystery. Everyone digs in X-Ray's location till the hole is 70 feet across and 5 feet deep. They find another body, but that's not what they wanted. To the incinerator it goes. So they keep digging until they hit a concrete floor. They hit it a little more until water starts gushing out, flooding the holes they've dug. People are running, tripping over the water pressure, trying to get out. A military officer is stunned and gasps his mouth and drops his cigarette into the water. Suddenly, the water catches fire like me spitting verses. It's not water, it's gasoline. Everyone makes it out in time, but one camper's arm is severely burnt. For the next 4 hours, they toss dirt into the hole to put out the flames. They have not found more of this hammer object, and the warden is pissed, so he beats up Theo the squid. Then the warden bluntly asks Stanley, "Did you dig your sister's grave before you killed her?" Stanley again is too afraid to say anything. His friend Zero decides to escape far into the desert. As he runs, Mr. Sir aims his gun, finger on the trigger, ready to fire. But Theo stands back up to bash Sir with a rock in the back of the head. Stanley takes the gun and Sir's truck to pick up Zero and X-Ray. As they drive off, more gunshots are heard and is shot through the windshield. The warden has a second gun. He's firing at the truck until Theo lashes back, only to get knocked to the ground. Theo begs for mercy as the warden aims for his face. The squid steps in, but the warden pulls the trigger. Theo and the squid get splatted with no respawns. See you next Splatfest, douchebag. Stanley, Zero, and X-Ray are all in the truck as they head towards the only place they'll be safe. Yeah, Mexico really was their destination, though. After the crash, airbags deploy and X-Ray is coughing blood. They slammed into the same gasoline-filled concrete hole from before. Are you serious? Suddenly, they notice the concrete slate has a massive crack in it. Grabbing a flashlight, they shine through the gaps. "Oh my god, you're not gonna believe this," yells Stanley Yelnats. What they found was an underground parking lot with about 200 parked cars. Going inside, they find a skeleton with a Macy's bag and a lot of sweaters inside. Zero and X-Ray rest while X-Ray's ribs are broken from the crash. Stanley ventures alone to find an underground Sears. Rows of untouched shelves covered in dust and skeletons all across the floor, which sounds like a regular Sears. Stanley brings back some board games and they play Trivial Pursuit together. As they play, X-Ray is in severe pain, begging for them not to leave him down here to die. X-Ray admits his biggest regret is that he's a virgin and asks these guys, oh no, he asked these guys to explain what sex feels like. Changing the subject, Zero flat out says, "Why'd you kill your sister, Stanley?" Bitch! Stanley finally explains what happened to his sister after these messages.
Stop digging and take a breather. Holes will be right back.
Let's get back to Holes, starring Shia LaBeouf.
Changing the subject, Zero flat out says, "Why'd you kill your sister, Stanley?" Bitch! Stanley finally confesses how after the bombs dropped, him and his 8-year-old sister Rebecca got separated from their parents, so they ran camp to camp while raiding supermarkets, surviving off puppy chow. They ran through forests with gunshots in the background as Rebecca trips and coughs up blood. Stanley takes her to an elementary school the military is using as a hospital. Sick people are everywhere pleading for help. One pulls a gun trying to get through but is tackled by several military guards. Stanley guides Rebecca to a soldier as she hyperventilates. They stay inside the gymnasium with dozens of makeshift beds laid out and only 2 volunteer doctors. Rebecca's throat is starting to close up, possibly from the bomb's radiation poisoning. As Stanley sleeps on the floor next to Rebecca's cot bed, he's awakened by her harsh breathing sounds. She's holding her throat, grasping for air. Stanley begs for a doctor, but no one comes. He pleads for medication, but a woman tells him there isn't any. There's nothing to do now but wait. Eventually, doctors give her a tracheotomy, a hole in her neck.
The hole in your ass.
Sitting in a bed with her eyes barely open, she breathes through the tube at her neck. Weeks pass as she gets worse and worse. Rebecca could barely open her swollen eyes as her tear ducts dried up. Stanley has had enough as he reaches for Rebecca's tracheotomy tube and slowly removes it. Rebecca's last breath leaves her body.
Wow, that sucked.
As others witness the mercy kill, Stanley Kramer is sentenced to Camp Green Lake. Zero and X-Ray understand why he did it. On his last leg, X-Ray knows he's next. He promises to say hi to Stanley's sister for him. As he loses consciousness, X-Ray can see through time and space. The camera pans back to showing the Macy's bag fade time in reverse, back before the blast. Life was normal. The mall was alive. Sears still contained skeletons. The Macy's bag belongs to a mother giving her son a new sweater. She walks towards the parking lot where the remains were found by the campers. We fade back to the present. You were my friends, my best friends, X-Ray stammered. Sunset falls as Zero and Stanley Kramer stand over X-Ray's grave. Zero proclaims, "That's the last hole I'm ever gonna dig." With a duffel bag containing flashlights, a gun, and Trivial Pursuit, they walk back to Camp Green Lake. But on their way, they noticed a box sticking up from the sand, and they open it. It's a row of spark plug hammers? Zero states, "Do you think it's a weapon?" "I think it's 23 loaded weapons," Stanley replies. "Yeah, so it's like a futuristic weapon or something?" Suddenly, Mr. Sir and the warden come up from behind, guns drawn, ready to give the two the Texas death penalty. But out of nowhere, a loud electrical snap bursts. The back of Mr. Sir's head has the spark plugs embedded into his skull. Another electrical snap as the spark plugs lodge into the warden's chest, blood gushing from his mouth. There we go again, coughing blood. So I guess the spark plugs are like these needle missiles the Mandalorian can only use like once per episode. Next, military trucks come in with Counselor Podansky stepping out in uniform. Podansky tosses them 2 uniforms telling them they've been drafted. They board the truck with a box of spark plug weapon things and head towards the ocean. A civilian transport ship is waiting. With the duffel bag, they're not sure what these spark plugs were for, so they toss them overboard and watch them sink as they begin a new life at sea. Where this military ship goes is a mystery. Fade to black, that's the end. So, what did you think? As crazy as it sounded conceptually, I actually enjoyed the mystery and how you only saw glimpses of this apocalyptic future. Are they drafted into some future war, I guess? Was the camp just here so they could loot for weapons? Maybe? I love the Disney film that was made and would never change a thing, though in a post-Riverdale, post-reboot everything hellscape, this could have been something interesting? Elements of a trapped directionless teenager is there, like with Donnie Darko, and the nuclear bomb in Texas causing a military draft was the setup in Kelly's other film, Southland Tales.
I'm a pimp. And pimps don't commit suicide.
It's a sampling of what his later works would include. There's probably also something here for the film, The Box, but I didn't see that. Hopefully you all enjoyed this different type of Midnight Society vid. I'd do this again, assuming anyone out there can please find me the unmade Richard Donner Crazy Taxi movie script. That is my new personal holy grail of lost media.
Don't you want a rematch?
The curse is real.
Welcome to Camp Green Lake.
Where's the lake?
And on April 18th, the mystery will be revealed.
What am I supposed to be looking for?
Caveman, X-ray, zigzag, armpit, zero.
What do you say we dig one more hole?
What is that? Holes. The book is now the movie. Rated PG in theaters April 18th.